It's showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Matinée. Hi there, Steve.
Good morning, Andy. It's survived the storms this
Holy
weekend.
cow.
I think looking at my yard, and we don't have any trees down. We don't have anything fun like that. In
No
the
lightning
yard
strikes
today,
on your
so
neighbor's trees.
Feeling no. We did have that like a year or two ago. There was somebody's
Right.
palm tree that got hit by lightning down the street, but
Nothing today. It's all safe.
Today. Yeah. Yes.
Well, that's good. Yes, it's been a little crazy stormy. It's never I don't know. It's nuts when it gets like that. It's like, I just cleaned all of that. What are you making me do this all over again for?
Now you've got to go
Oh,
vacuum the yard again.
I tell you.
Yes.
How's your movie life been this past week?
Slow. Work was really busy, so I only there's two that I guess I can talk. Well, one that I want to talk about. The second one, sometimes you just want to put on some. It's late at night, and you're not up for something really heavy, so you put on something like Roger Corman's Death Race 2050, knowing that it's going to be, well, it is what Roger Corman does. And it's fun. There's not a whole lot to it, but it's like these B movies get new life because of what they can get away with in effects now. They still, look cheap, but it's fun. It was, it was what it was. And I was like, okay, I haven't seen something like this in a long time, and just put it on. But then I also finally got around to watching Spring Breakers. Which had been on my list of things that I was wanting to see, maybe, and I was always like, well, I don't know. So finally watched that, and it was in some ways better than I expected, and in some ways it was kind of disappointing that it didn't go a little bit further in some areas. But I forgot this was that's from 2012. I thought it was just a couple of years ago, but I guess time just got away from me on this one. But I'd never seen anything that Harmony had directed, any of his other films. I saw Kids that he wrote, way back when in the late 90s, but I haven't seen anything he directed. So his style with this one was, it impressed me. It was very, I guess, non-linear, wasn't typical traditional, okay, I'm going to put the camera here, we're going to shoot the scene. It was, I hate to say this, it's like he was influenced by Terrence Malick. I'm going to just shoot stuff of kids at spring break and these girls, and just let them do their things and capture those moments, and then started splicing some of those together. It's sort of the front end of the movie, which worked really well. There wasn't a whole lot of sense of story. It was just, here's girls at college hanging out. This is what college life is like. And then they head down to Florida for spring break, and then the craziness happens. And it just, at the end of the film, it seemed like it should have said something about everything that happened and the impact it had on them, but it didn't come across strong enough for me to say one way or the other what we should be thinking about these girls and what decisions they're going to make after these events, because they say that they're going to turn their lives around, and I don't know if we're supposed to buy that or not, or if that's just a line they're feeding their parents on the phone. I don't know. And I wish it had given me a clearer indication of sort of either consequences that they've realized and they're going to turn their lives around, or if it's really a statement about kids whose lives go off the rails. And they made a decision, and their lives are going to continue sort of down this chaotic, violent path. And I don't have a clear sense of that. And I wish it had, because I think it could then be a film that is going to say something to kids one way or the other. And to me, it falls into that area of, now it's open to criticism, sort of like Wolf of Wall Street. Oh, it's a film that's celebrating these people that probably shouldn't be celebrated, and maybe it should, condemn them, and it doesn't come across that way. And now there's that issue of, are certain people going to latch on this movie of like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to go down to spring break and hook up with a drug dealer, and that's a great life to have. And it's not. And I just wish there was a little bit more of commentary on that.
Interesting. I never saw that one. It's been on my list. Something I definitely want to check out at some point. And for all those reasons that you've just been saying here, I think it just sounds like a really interesting film that likely has more going for it than just kind of the cursory, party at spring break sort of movie. So, I need to bump that one up on my list. Plus, I think it was A24, so it's got to be on my list.
It is an A24, so it's got to be on your list.
Exactly. Cool. Yeah, I haven't really been watching a whole lot. I've been kind of a little slow with movies this past week, but my son had his birthday and he really wanted to go see Christopher Robin, so we went and took him to that last night, which it's exactly what I expected it to be. But I still enjoyed it, and I think it's just to that end. I think it's hard if you're really being kind of telling a story with that kind of honesty that Winnie the Pooh has. I think it ends up coming across pretty well, and as long as you kind of go in knowing that, I think it's something that can still be enjoyed. I think if you're expecting anything original or unique, you're not going to get it. You'll be disappointed. But I still found it pretty warm-hearted and pleasant. So that was nice.
Okay, yeah. It's nice to change things up and have films like that every once in a while.
And it's getting like, critics are bashing it. But I think that's why, I think Mark Forster has done stronger films. I think everybody involved has done stronger films, but it still is, it's hitting its target market really well, which is young kids and families. And I think it has just a very safe kind of story with warm, honest characters that makes for an honest, enjoyable experience, even if it is, very rote. So, so I still count it as something that I walked out enjoying.
Okay.
So we just jump right into trailers.
We'll go from Christopher Robin to your trailer. We'll just go
exactly.
Just do a complete tonal shift on that one. Okay,
100%. Yeah. So my trailer this week is the new British film featuring everybody's favorite Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. It is called Slaughterhouse Rules. I would guess it's a play on Slaughterhouse 5 and Cider House Rules. But it's
I didn't even think of that, but okay.
But it's basically a film about a boarding school and the faculty running it, headed up by Michael Sheen, who's always enjoyable, and Asa Butterfield is one of the students. And here we find, I don't know, some sort of monstrous creature living out in the forest with a gateway to hell that Nick Frost's groundskeeper seems to he's effective at pointing that out or selling drugs to the kids. And Simon Pegg looks like he's a new professor here at this school, and shenanigans ensue. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, I think, are always at their best when, at least as a pair, when they're working with Edgar Wright. I just think that trio has created some really spectacular films, which we've talked about on the show before. I never saw the Alien film, and I'm blanking on its name, that the two of them did on their own. But it I don't know, just the look of it. It was called Paul. That's what it was. The look of it just never struck me as something I was curious about, and I didn't hear anything good about it, so I never bothered with it. This very likely could fall into that camp. It looks like it could just go down a road of nonsense and turn into something that I'm just find completely dumb. But it could be fun. It's hard to say. It's written and directed by Crispian Mills, who wrote it with Henry Fitzherbert, and then Luke Passmore also helped with the story. I'm not familiar with that gang too much. I know Crispian Mills did do a previous project with Simon Pegg called A Fantastic Fear of Everything, And it's I think a relatively fresh young group of filmmakers, and Simon and Nick have kind of come on board as executive producers on this. So clearly, it's a project they probably wanted to do that they thought would be fun, and the effects look good. It could be fun. I just don't know. It looks like it might have a few things I'll enjoy though from the trailer. What do you think?
It is Shaun of the Dead meets Harry Potter. That is exactly what this is, because you've got in the trailer the whole, new student coming aboard and getting the, as just about every high school movie does, like, oh, here are the different sort of, cliques in the school. Here's the different people and all this. And we see there's, these different groups. You've got the headmaster, you've got, at the high end, and I think they call him the Bat because of his cape. And then you've got the kid that's like tied up under the bathroom sink
Right.
or whatever, who's just like, he's the one that everybody picks on, so it's got a great sense of humor is what I get across from that. And then you have the crazy hellhole and strange beasts coming out of it. It does. It looks like a lot of fun. I think it knows exactly what it is. It will come down to how well everything is executed on this one, because I think it has a really solid cast. It's a genre that can be so much fun if it's not taking itself too seriously, and it doesn't look like it is. I'm really looking forward to this one. To me, this is one of those, I hate to say it, guilty pleasures, because I hope it's better than that, but this looks like everything I would want to love in a film.
Yeah, absolutely. If it can pull it off, and that's the trick. So, well, this movie right now, it only has a release date in the UK. I don't know if it's gonna spread beyond that, but it's actually I just saw this. It's the first film from Stolen Pictures, which is a film and TV production company that was formed by Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. So there you go. But it is being released October 31st in the UK. So a nice little Halloween film for the Brits. Hopefully it will have more of a life than that, and it'll make its way across the pond to us.
Yes.
So
I'm looking forward to it. If I need to, I have a feeling this may just end up, on streaming services this fall, and may just be a great movie to put on for Halloween if it's out here. So
all right. What's your trailer?
I didn't know what to make of this thing, because I looked at this, just the description, and I've got a story about a kindergarten teacher that has this prodigy of a student, and I'm looking at the cast, and I've got Maggie Gyllenhaal, and I know she had done a movie a couple years ago about education, so I thought, oh, this is going to be this really interesting drama about the school system and how some kids are left out. I thought, okay, this is going to be one of these, movies with a point, with a big message, and then I started watching the trailer, and the music kicks in, and I thought, why are all these music cues telling me this is like a scary movie? What is going on? And as the trailer slowly reveals the story, it's she has this student that can write poetry, and he's in kindergarten, and the next thing I know, it looks like she's basically kidnapping him so that she can protect him from a world that wants kids to be other things and doesn't, nurture the creative spirit like, Mozart. And she takes this kid and, takes him from the playground, takes him on a tour of some museums. And then it looks like she kidnaps him, takes him out away from the city so that she can get his poetry and they can get it published as a book. And it just, wow, very interesting sort of character psychological exploration of someone who maybe has a desire for one thing and doesn't have it in themselves and sees it in someone else. And so she wants to, let this kid fulfill his destiny as this great artist. And wow, just took a really dark turn. Not sure what to make of how this is going to play out, but I'm intrigued because it looks like just a movie that she is going to carry the whole film. The other recognizable face I see in this is Gael Garcia Bernal, who I remember vaguely from Blindness as sort of the king of whatever floor that is.
King of the Blind.
And it
Yes, yeah, right.
Yes, King of the Blind. And it looks like she's either, I think he's like a professor or teacher in a class that she's taking. It's because he seems to be helping her evaluate the student's poetry. But yeah, this is not the movie that I expected, but I am now completely intrigued by what this is going to do. It reminded me a lot of 1991's Little Man Tate with Jodie Foster as the mom who has, this brilliant son, and Diane Wiest runs this school for like brilliant kids. And again, this conflict between kids that are really talented and parents that want them to just be normal kids. And this sort of gets into that territory. So it's coming, looks like Netflix, straight to Netflix, October 12th. Directed Sarah Colangelo, and this is her second feature film. The first one is a film I have not heard of called Little Accidents. Not anything I'd heard of or familiar with, but this one has a really solid approach that looks like it's taken that has me interested.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks very interesting. It's based on an Israeli film from like 4 years ago, I think, that got quite a lot of acclaim. I didn't see it, but I remember hearing about it. But watching the trailer, I'm like, wow, this is a dark story, and I'm really curious to see where it's going to go. So it's definitely something that I want to check out, and it's going to be on Netflix, so that'll be an easy way to check it out. And I had heard of Sarah's previous film, Little Accidents, that came out. I think that she did it based on a short film that she did, but I can't remember what I had heard about it, if it was good or not, but I don't know. I mean, just based on watching this trailer, it piqued my curiosity with her, and as a kind of an up-and-coming filmmaker, that may be something else I want to check out. So
yeah, we went to the dark side, both of us. Yeah. We went to school. We went to the dark side of school.
I know you still kept your school theme. Your students just went a little younger, but still.
Yes, and just a little bit darker than I was thinking it was going to be.
Exactly.
Yes, I thought, I'll start off. The school year's getting into gear. Oh, great story about a teacher that is struggling and fighting to do what's right for kids, but it is just not in the way that I expected.
Exactly.
So,
right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, I guess we should jump into our lists, huh?
Okay. Well. So we had a really wide spread of options available on this one, and so I wasn't even sure how to start preparing for this until I knew what the results were going to be, and the option was the one that we gave ourselves some latitude last week and where we could go with this, right?
We had films that shifted actors' careers, space anomalies, and Cold War tensions. I think it's a nice spread, actually. We had a variety of things. Nobody seemed to want to hear us talk about space anomalies, though. No one picked that one. So, come on, you guys. Well, I guess we did already cover Star Trek 4 on the show, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, so films that shifted actors' careers is where the votes landed. So we're going to dig into that one, which should be fun.
Yeah, I really embraced the spirit of this, and did I think some unique things with it to cover me in any way. So I don't have a really long list, but I don't. Fingers crossed. You're not going to have any steals from me, I'm hoping.
Well, I have a pretty good list. I've got quite a few things. I kept coming up with them, so I was actually pretty proud of myself. And because you could go so many different ways, a film that shifted an actor's career for the better, like they may have been kind of a B level actor or kind of a supporting actor that all of a sudden had a big break because of a role, and it kind of turned corner for them in their career. You could have the opposite, a film that ruined an actor's career, or you could have a film that kind of started shifting them into a different type of genres and different type of work that they were going after. So there's kind of quite a variety, I thought.
Yes.
So with that, since it sounds like you have fewer, why don't you kick us off?
Okay. So my first one is this is so I tried to get different categories for each one on my list. So you talked about different approaches, and I think I've found one for each different type that I'm going for. So first is sort of a movie that really sets someone career solid, maybe early on in their career. And there's sometimes you'll have actors that are struggling in a lot of smaller films, and then finally there's this one role that gets everyone's attention. And you think back, how did this person get started? They've just always seemed to been like an A-list star, and you go back and look and say, oh, they've been working for a little while. So I'm going to start off in that category, and I am going to start with a movie that I had heard a lot about and finally got around to watching. It was just totally blown away by Jennifer Lawrence's performance in Winter's Bone. Mm-hmm. It is just an amazingly solid movie. She had done some work in some smaller pieces, but this one, if you look at her career, this is when people started talking about her talent, her ability, as a young actress, carrying a film that is really unique. It is I would say technically a film noir, but set sort of in the backwoods areas of America, sort of like out there in the Midwest, more rural areas. But it's a sort of follows along all the points of a noir. You've got this mystery to be solved. Her father has gone missing. She's meeting all these different groups of people that may or may not have information. There may be something larger at work beyond what she is first aware of, and just a really solid performance from her in this film.
That's a great film. It's one that it's definitely a dark journey for her that she goes on, but man, is she good. And you can see why she had such a career blossom from that particular film. And it's also a great opportunity to see John Hawkes, because it's always great to watch John Hawkes do stuff.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. And that's back in 2010, so early on in her career. And it was just shortly after that she ended up starring in X-Men and the Hunger Games franchise, and from there things just continued to build. Silver Linings Playbook, all of those things. Yeah,
awesome. So
that's my first pick. Which path are you going down with your first pick?
I'm going to go, I've been torn, do I start with, what direction do I go? I think I'm going to start with just, with my favorite actor, because why not? Anytime I can talk about Tom Hanks, I will. And I'm going to talk about Big, because, that is really kind of the movie that shifted his career from, the guy who's kind of the funny guy. He had been in some other films, like he had done a small drama called Every Time We Say Goodbye that was like disappeared as soon as it appeared, and Nothing in Common, which I think showed some of his acting chops as far as a guy who could do drama as well as comedy, but that also wasn't as popular, but otherwise it was stuff like Bachelor Party, The Man with One Red Shoe, Dragnet, and The Money Pit, and Volunteers, and so he was really kind of in that thrust of all the kind of wacky comedies that he was really becoming known for. And then when he was cast in Big, Penny Marshall's film, that really gave him the opportunity to kind of keep that same comedic joy, but also really kind of find the heart of that young teen kid who had been magically transformed to be big and became an adult overnight and has to learn to live on his own and falls in love and gets a job, and all while still trying to keep that kid side of himself without becoming a grown-up. And I think Tom Hanks pulled it off in such an amazing way. It got him major accolades and acclaim, and it's something that he was nominated for an Oscar for it. It was just something that everybody noticed. And from that point on, his next film was Punchline, which was also kind of a dark comedy, and he still did the silly comedies and stuff, but that gave him the opportunity to, and it gave the world kind of the idea that, hey, this guy might be able to do some other stuff, and that led him down a solid road that gave him quite a prolific career. So that's my first one.
Oh yeah, that's such a key movie for like the Tom Hanks filmography because that's when somehow comedians, really talented comedians, can just suddenly turn to that dramatic side and do it in such a solid way. And Big is it's just one of those classic films that is so much fun, and it wouldn't have been the same movie without him to bridge those two sides of being a kid and being an adult. Great pick.
All right, what's number 2 for you?
Okay, so now I'm going the other direction. I'm going to look at someone whose star was on the rise, made a choice, and things just got completely derailed.
Okay.
in the early 90s, you look at this and say, okay, Laurie Petty, you were in Point Break. That was, okay, yeah, sort of overshadowed by Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, but, a notable performance. But then she hits League of Their Own in 1992 as Gina Davis's younger sister, and just, really solid performance. A couple years later, stars in a little film called Tank Girl, based on a graphic novel. And ever since that point, she has never recovered. I'm looking through her filmography, and it's just a mess of TV and smaller movies. And you would think that after something like League of Their Own, and you look at everybody that was in that movie, again, Tom Hanks, Penny Marshall, you had Rosie O'Donnell, you had Madonna, even people.
Gina Davis.
Great movie, solid performances, and people continue to, build careers after that. Laurie Petty just took a nosedive after this. And the only thing I can point to is Tank Girl, which is it's a guilty pleasure of mine. It's an odd movie. It's set in a post-apocalyptic Australia where there's a water shortage. There's these half human, half kangaroo mutants. It's ridiculous. It's silly. It's not a great film, but it is fun. And it's probably worth seeing just for a really early Naomi Watts performance as Jet Girl in the movie as well. But for whatever reason, Laurie Petty has not made a really good decision after this, or has been able to find roles that she should have been able to capitalize on after this.
And that's one I've never seen. I maybe it's just because I never heard anything good about it.
Yeah.
But I had enjoyed the stuff that she was doing up until that point. So it's a shame that it kind of shifted her in a direction that just didn't end up working any better for her. So, well, what are you going to do? My next one, sometimes actors have great careers, and then those actors, for one reason or another, their careers just kind of seem to take a turn. And it's not necessarily a particular film, but it's just, it might be a series of films or something. They just all of a sudden aren't or they're just not the it actor anymore. I think that is certainly the case of John Travolta, who had an incredible career in the 70s and into the 80s even. I mean, I think that he was still doing some great stuff, but by the time we got into the mid 80s and the late 80s, now I would argue the Look Who's Talking series that he was in was very popular, but it wasn't giving us that gritty John Travolta that we had back in the 70s with Saturday Night Fever, with Blowout, some of those darker films, Carrie even. And I think that it was the love of Travolta that led Quentin Tarantino to cast him in Pulp Fiction and really rebirth this man's career. And I think that Pulp Fiction is a really fascinating film. I don't find it as enticing now as I did back then, but I still think it's a really solid work. And everybody in it is at the top of their game, Tarantino and Travolta. I mean, it's so great seeing John Travolta as Vincent Vega and what he's bringing to the table. And it really is something that gave him a rebirth in his career. Now, he still picked projects that were you could argue we're still going down the wrong way. I think John Travolta may just have a problem with picking good projects, but at least his career had a rebirth. But White Man's Burden, what was that one he did? Battlefield Earth. There were films that he made that's like, really, you sure you want to go down that road again? And you could argue that he's kind of gone down that crappy road again. But I heard Gotti was actually pretty good, which just came out earlier this year, or at least his performance in it was. So, he's one of those guys who I think may need the right hand helping him pick projects. But that being said, I think Tarantino and Pulp Fiction was a great rebirth for him.
Oh yeah, there was the late '90s were just really solid movies. It opened doors for him to classic from that era for me. One of my favorites, Get Shorty. He got into the act Face Off. Yeah, I mean it's totally different. Travolta from the just struggling in the late '80s. Yeah, this really just presented him, I think, reminded the generation that he had talent and introduced him to another generation of film goers. This was one of my options on my list. So I'll give you credit for I'll give you credit for a steal on this one because it's that difficult transition and in finding a star making comeback almost in Pulp Fiction. So great pick,
awesome,
great steal. So I'm for my third and final pick, I'm in that same path there of a career that was, sort of set, things derail, and there's a film that sort of brings that person back around. And in this case, I think it has to do with age, of transitioning from being a young child actor, struggling as a teenager, try and find the right role, to beginning adulthood and now being cast as an adult, and people saying, okay, we kept thinking of you as a kid. Now, okay, you can show us something a little bit more mature on that. So, and as with fame and young actors, there's often lots of other things that go on in terms of bad choices and addictions that can derail a career. But I think everybody will remember sort of Drew Barrymore in Scream, and that sort of setting her up for a big success and comeback in the 90s after the 80s and E.T. and Firestarter and a lot of things that, as a young child actor, weird things in the 80s, small films, weird things, and then Scream sort of reestablishing her and setting her on a lot of solid performances into the 90s, and then transitioning over into being, a producer. But, things, we got back into romantic comedies with her as an adult. You got the Charlie's Angels franchise. But if you go back, it's really sort of that role in the sort of opening segment in the first Scream film that sort of reintroduced a new Drew Barrymore to us.
That's and it was nice to have that rebirth of her. And I think a lot of it is sometimes for these people, it's growing up and just because she went through a lot as a kid, and I think that she had to find a way to kind of mature on her own and stop being that girl who was lifting up her shirt on Letterman and become somebody who is just a little more serious, and it took some time for her, but I'm glad that it worked, because I think that she's gone down a much brighter path. So yes, that's a great one. My last one is actually very similar in that realm, because it is another actor who was doing great work from a very young age, coming from a famous family. This is Robert Downey Jr. He had a really solid career as a kid, and he had been in a lot of fun projects in the 80s and started getting into some more serious stuff and showing that he really had acting chops. He wasn't just that punk kid in Weird Science or Girls Just Want to Have Fun. He actually could do stuff more seriously, like Less Than Zero or Chances Are, or as we found out, Chaplin, which was a really fantastic performance. It was really the mid 90s though that he ended up getting his kind of his drug problems and having a lot of issues. And it was like for 5 solid years, 96 to 2001, where he was just, really struggling with his addictions, and he was in and out of jail. He had that issue where somebody called the police because they found him sleeping in their kid's bed or something. Like, he was so whacked out on drugs that he walked into some stranger's house and passed out in their bed. I mean, he was a mess, and he was still being cast in projects, but he was kind of becoming uninsurable. And but people would still put him in smaller roles. He was still in one of my favorite films, Wonder Boys, in that period of time, and Bowfinger as a tiny bit player. So there were still things that he was popping up in. And as he kind of cleaned himself up, he started popping up in things like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which we've talked about on the show, and A Scanner Darkly, which is a really interesting one. But I would argue that it really was Iron Man in 2008 that really showed people that Robert Downey Jr. was back. And I think it was probably the thing that he needed in his life to kind of have that breath of fresh air, like, I can do this again. And I've never heard him talking after this period about anything awful. It was all like, everything's now become, he's very grounded, he's centered, he's kind of found his sense of well-being and stuff. And I think that just having that chance to kind of prove that he can be somebody that can be a box office, carry the box office, I think is what he needed. And that certainly has given him a great rebirth in his career. And for the last 10 years, he's been in some really solid stuff. And he's been kind of the face on these things, like the Sherlock Holmes series, and things like The Judge, where he's playing opposite Robert Duvall, and of course all the Marvel films. But then there's great performances like Tropic Thunder. So I think that he's really taken an incredible turn after Iron Man. So that's my final pick.
Oh, that's a great way to end this list, because there's no better story of, it's almost like his third time around of the transition from young teen act wildlife as a young celebrity, and then trying to get more grounded in the 90s, still struggling through that. But yes, when you see from Iron Man, it is just the more dependable, solid, grounded Robert Downey Jr. that is continuously just, you look at everything and you're like, there we are. Solid films, solid choices, whether it's, carrying a film or a franchise, Iron Man, the Avengers, all that, to even, fun, smaller roles like in Chef, just small, working with Jon Favreau on a small project, but still just, you can see how much fun he has in what he's doing. I think there's just, you see that there's a love for film and what he's doing now that is a completely different person from, where he was earlier in his career. So the perfect way to end this list.
Yeah. So that's it. Those are our films that have changed actors' careers. So what are we going to do now? We got Planet of the Apes. We're kicking off a new series. I think the obvious one is Talking Animals.
Okay. Yes.
Well, let's see. What else? What else can we throw in there? We've got let's see. We've got twist. We could do twist endings. We could do Landing on the Wrong Planet.
Oh, that's a long list. Landing on the Wrong Planet. Getting lost someplace. Yeah. Let's see. Planet of the Apes. The twist ending. Yeah, okay. Yes. I think that makes sense. I like Talking Animals as well, because that opens up. Now, if you're doing Talking Animals, I'm assuming we're leaving animated films out of the mix on that.
I would think it would need
because
to be. I think it's a live action film, because otherwise,
Okay.
I mean, it's,
okay. And then a twist ending, because I would say this is one of the first ones that I recall. Sort of that big twist reveal at the end sort of just pulls the rug out from under you of like, I had no idea, I wasn't expecting this. So I think that's one thing that this film is really known for. So that's another one.
What about using storytelling to or science fiction to bury your messages or to kind of convey your messages. The Rod Serling aspect of the film.
The Rod Serling aspect of we're going to make a social commentary through science fiction or other genres to make a different statement.
So social commentary through genre films.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Where rather than directly making that statement, you've sort of subtext hidden within the genre. Okay, there we go.
I think that'll work. So we got twist endings, talking animals in live action movies, and social commentary through genre films.
So I think Pete just, he needs to show up because I'm still waiting for him to bring his, Woody Allen movies to these lists. So I think one of these days, I want to see the Woody Allen movie with talking animals. I want to see.
Well, I'd say you could use ants, except that's animated.
That's right. So I think Pete's shying away from these lists because he can't live up to that. I'm going to call him out. Peter Wright, you need to bring your Woody Allen fandom to these lists, sir.
Oh, well, until then, I guess we'll call this one done. So, as always, all of our Patreon supporters, we appreciate you supporting us, and we hope you enjoyed listening to this. Thank you so much for continuing to put your money behind us and keep us moving forward. And I guess until then, Steve, have a great week.
Hondo.